What is up, everybody? It's Animac here for Anime Uproar, and did you know that there is a secret message hidden in the One Piece logo? If you take away the O at the beginning and the Luffy-shaped I, and if you pretend that the N is actually an X and you turn the P upside down, you get the word Xebec. Okay, I'm messing with you, but the legendary pirate Rox D. Xebec is indeed one of the biggest and most insane mysteries in One Piece. In many ways, Rox actually created the modern One Piece world as we know it. His legacy literally shaped the story, and yet we know almost nothing about him. But what if I told you that Xebec will play a major role in the final saga of the One Piece story, and that he may even be directly related to Luffy? The truth about Xebec is about to change everything, so let's get into it. You guys know how this works. Leave a quick like and comment if you enjoy our videos. It only takes you a second, but it helps us out with that YouTube algorithm. And if you're new to Anime Uproar, or maybe you watch our videos regularly, but you just haven't taken the time to subscribe yet, do me a quick favor and make this the video that you subscribe and hit that notification bell to turn on all notifications. Finally, this video will of course contain One Piece manga spoilers, so please proceed with caution. You have been warned. Rox D. Xebec was an infamous pirate who terrorized the world of One Piece some 4 decades ago, long before the current age of piracy began with the death of Gol D. Roger. In fact, the rise of Rox predated the rise of Roger, and once Roger did come into his own as a powerful pirate, Rox was considered to be his greatest rival. From the D initial in his name, we know that Rox was a member of the D clan, and we know that his goal was to become the king of the world. Presumably, he wanted to sit on the empty throne and rule over the entire world with an iron fist. This sets him apart from other D-clan pirates like Luffy and Roger, who wanted to become the pirate king in order to be the freest men on the seas. Their goal was freedom and adventure, whereas Rox's goal appears to have been wealth and power. Rox also differs from pirates like Luffy and Roger when it comes to tactics. He was willing to do whatever it takes to achieve his goals, and he had no problem with killing anyone who dared to stand in his way. His crew was not one that prized friendship and loyalty. Instead, it revolved around strength and rivalry. It appears that Rox's crewmates didn't even really like him as a person, but they still fought alongside him because he was such a fierce and powerful pirate. They likely believed that Rox was the only one who could make their ambitious dreams come true, and so they followed him in spite of his ruthless and untrustworthy nature. And speaking of Rox's crew, it was probably the single most impressive crew that ever existed in the history of One Piece. Xebec's crew consisted of a young Whitebeard, Kaido, Big Mom, Shiki, and Captain Jack, among others. The first 3 went on to become Yonko, and the other 2 became legends in their own right. Since we know that these famous crew members didn't necessarily like Xebec, and some like Big Mom even had blatantly negative opinions about him, there had to be something that kept his crew together. And in my opinion, the one thing that could keep all of these massive personalities with huge egos on the same page is none other than Xebec's ambition. And of course, strength, since he was one of the strongest pirates in existence, and Kaido put him right up there with Whitebeard, Roger, Odin, and Shanks. Xebec was clearly a very ambitious man who had an important mission. For a long time, he had been interested in the secret history of the world. He was determined to get his hands on forbidden knowledge, and he openly declared war on the world government, vowing to overthrow the current system and become the king of the world. He showed a willingness to kill even the celestial dragons themselves, on top of their slaves and everyone else who dared to challenge him. More than 40 years ago, he gathered his crew on the island of Hachinosu and set out to accomplish his ultimate goal, although the specifics of that goal are still unknown. Other than the fact that he declared war on the world government and that he wanted to be the king of the world, we know very little about Rox's true intentions, his combat strategy, and his ultimate motivations. Why was he doing what he was doing? Was it just for wealth and power? Or was there more to the story? The only major clue that we have about Rox's ultimate goal is the infamous God Valley incident, which occurred 38 years ago. The entire incident was deliberately hushed up and concealed from the world by the world government, and today only the older generations of Marines are even aware that the incident occurred. We know that Xebec and his overpowered crew attacked a mysterious island called God Valley, and according to Sengoku, multiple celestial dragons were present on God Valley at the time of the attack. Sengoku didn't specify how many celestial dragons were present or which ones were actually there. We just know that some of them were on the island along with their slaves. It is possible that these were high-ranking world nobles, such as the Gorosei, because in order to defeat Xebec and protect these celestial dragons, the world government resorted to something unheard of. They actually teamed up with the future pirate king Goldie Roger in order to take Xebec down. Garp and Roger worked together to defeat Xebec, and it was during this battle that Garp earned his title as Hero of the Marines. After what must have been one of the greatest battles in the history of One Piece, Xebec was defeated and the Rock's pirates were dissolved. Unfortunately, we still know very little about the battle itself and how exactly Garp and Roger managed to win. But that is precisely what makes this legendary incident so fascinating. Practically every One Piece fan is hoping for an extended God Valley flashback that will finally reveal how it all went down, and that will allow us to learn more about the mysterious Rocks D. Xebec. As I said before, the truth about the entire incident was then heavily censored by the world government, and the island of God Valley itself vanished from the face of the earth. We don't know how or why it vanished, but now it is gone and it cannot be found on any map. Also, this presumably isn't an instance of the world government calling in a buster call to blow everything up on the island. In Sengoku's own words, the island disappeared entirely. If it had been destroyed by a buster call, he could have just said that. But even though the world government attempted to erase Xebec and God Valley from history, they could not erase Xebec's legacy. And in many ways, Xebec completely changed the world of One Piece and he shaped it into what it is today. Roger, Garp, Whitebeard, Big Mom, and Kaido wouldn't have become the people we know today if it wasn't for Xebec. Meaning that we may not have even had a new golden age of piracy and Luffy may never have become a pirate if it weren't for Xebec. If you're interested in how Xebec impacted the world of One Piece, including the entire warlord system, the rise of Blackbeard, and even Luffy's own journey, check out our video explaining all 10 members of the D-Clan and their powers, link in the description. Naturally, because of all the mystery that surrounds both Xebec and God Valley, there is no shortage of theories about all of this within the One Piece community. And some of these theories are truly compelling, and if they turned out to be true, they would explain a lot about the world of One Piece and about the family history of several important characters such as Luffy and Shanks. The first theory I want to discuss is the theory that Rocks D. Xebec is actually Luffy's other grandfather. There are two versions of this theory. One states that Luffy's mother is actually the daughter of Xebec, and she may have first come into contact with Garp and his son Dragon during the God Valley incident. We know that Garp always wanted both his son and his grandson to follow in his footsteps and to become Marines. So it is possible that a young Dragon was actually there with Garp at the time of the God Valley incident. Dragon would have been like 17 years old back then, so he may have been a new recruit or a Marine in training under the direct supervision of his father, Garp. In their capacity as Marines, Garp and Dragon would have been tasked with rescuing the Celestial Dragons before Xebec got to them. Dragon may have taken part in this rescue operation, which would explain why Garp fought so hard to protect the Celestial Dragons even though he hates them. And it would also explain why Garp was willing to work with Roger even though he hates pirates. If his own son was present on the island, then his son's safety would also depend on Garp defeating Xebec. So Garp did what he had to do, not just to protect the world nobles whom he hates, but also to protect his own son. And what if Xebec had a daughter? And after his ultimate defeat at God Valley, that daughter was taken into custody by the Marines. While in custody, this daughter could have met Garp and Dragon, and perhaps eventually her and Dragon fell in love. Since the world government was so determined to erase Xebec and the God Valley incident from history, it's possible that they were planning to execute everyone associated with Xebec in any way, including his daughter, even if she did nothing wrong. And that could be the moment that Dragon turned against the world government and embarked on a personal mission to destroy it. Instead of executing Xebec's daughter, he betrayed the Marines and ran away with her, and so Dragon became an outlaw and fugitive from that day forward. And while we don't know what happened to Luffy's mom after that, her absence from the story could be directly connected to the fact that she is Xebec's daughter. And that means that the world government wants to eliminate her at all costs, so it would make sense for her to keep a distance from Luffy because she doesn't want Luffy to get involved. The second version of this theory also suggests that Xebec is Luffy's other grandfather, but not because Xebec is the father of Luffy's mom, but rather because Xebec is actually the real father of Luffy's dad, Dragon. This theory is based on the fact that Monkey D. Dragon doesn't exactly look like his father Garp, but he does look quite a bit like the few images that we've seen of Xebec. According to this theory, Xebec had his young 17-year-old son with him at God Valley, and after his defeat, Xebec's son was taken in by Garp. Garp is actually Luffy's maternal grandfather, and Dragon became Garp's son-in-law after marrying his daughter. Dragon began using the name Monkey D. Dragon instead of Rocks D. Dragon because he wanted to hide his connection to Xebec, since that connection would have made him a massive target in the early stages of his life. I mean, as the leader of the revolutionaries, he is now a massive target either way, but that would not have been the case back when he was only 17, so the name change could have made sense back then. Sadly, this theory doesn't really explain the current whereabouts of Luffy's mother or why Garp never talks about his own daughter, but it's an interesting idea nonetheless. Then there's the crazy theory that Xebec may actually be Luffy's grandmother. Yes, Xebec was actually a woman who adopted a masculine persona in order to command more respect in the traditionally male pirate world. There are actual historic examples of this in our own world, with female pirates dressing up like men or even posing as men during their pirating careers, and the idea here is that Garp and Xebec were actually lovers. But they had a falling out when Xebec decided to declare war on the world government. Dragon is actually the son of Garp and Xebec, and that is why he shares some of Xebec's physical features. I'm not saying that this is a likely theory, but if you've been holding out hope for an intense romantic subplot featuring Garp, then this is probably your best bet. Another fun theory is that Xebec may actually be the father of Shanks. We've always wondered why Shanks and Buggy ended up on Roger's ship at such a young age, and one possible explanation is that Shanks was Xebec's son who was taken in by Roger after Xebec's defeat at God Valley. Shanks would have only been like 1 year old at the time, so he wouldn't even remember anything about Xebec, and Roger's crew would be the only family he ever knew. I personally really like this theory, if for no other reason than because it would confirm Shanks is a member of the D Clan. And seriously, Rocks D. Shanks sounds pretty badass. Shanks being Xebec's son who was rescued by Roger as a baby would also make for a great addition to the God Valley flashback. And since we know that Shanks will come back to the story sometime soon, such a reveal could be made when Shanks and Luffy reunite. Finally, there is the theory that Xebec is the father of Blackbeard, and there are some direct connections between these two infamous pirates. For one thing, Xebec and Blackbeard are the only two members of the D-Clan who have shown themselves to be ruthless and Machiavellian in the pursuit of their ultimate goals. Now, all D-Clan members seem destined to change the world in some way, but most of them are fighting for freedom, friendship, and other noble goals. Xebec and Blackbeard are clearly different, and they are willing to kill and destroy everyone and everything that stands in the way of their mission. They believe in freedom through power, and they are interested in absolute freedom for themselves at the expense of others. Luffy, Roger, Dragon, and other D-Clan members seem more interested in freedom for everyone, and they are motivated by things like friendship and loyalty, not greed and power. On top of that, Blackbeard even named his ship the Saber of Xebec, which suggests that Blackbeard wants to embrace Xebec's mission and legacy. Some have suggested that the Yami Yami no Mi, Blackbeard's first devil fruit, once belonged to Xebec, and that is why Blackbeard was so determined to find this one specific fruit. Blackbeard would have been about 2 years old when the God Valley incident occurred, So theoretically, he could be Xebec's son who is determined to get revenge for his father. That said, he could also just admire Xebec's ambition and thirst for power, as well as Xebec's willingness to boldly stand against the entire world. The big question is this: is Xebec really dead like Sengoku suggests, or is he still out there somewhere? If Xebec is somehow still alive, then the theory that he had the Yami Yami no Mi wouldn't make sense. But if he really is dead, then this theory is plausible. Blackbeard seems to be consciously following in Xebec's footsteps. He made Hachinosu his base of operations, just like Xebec. He named his ship the Saber of Xebec. And if the Xebec Yami Yami no Mi theory is correct, then we know that Blackbeard did everything in his power to consume Xebec's former devil fruit. Blackbeard also has the same Machiavellian ruthlessness as Xebec did, and it's almost certain that Blackbeard shares the same ultimate goal as Xebec. He wants to succeed where Xebec failed by overthrowing the world government and becoming the king of the world. And he doesn't want to achieve this through liberation, but through domination. I plan to dive into Blackbeard's secret master plan in another video, but in the meantime, let me know what you guys think. Is Xebec really dead, or could he be alive? Could Xebec be Luffy's other grandpa, or is he maybe Shanks' father or Blackbeard's dad? Take a few seconds and drop me a comment down below. I'd love to get a good conversation going. If you're looking for a video to watch next, check out my video on all the known D-Clan members and their powers, link in the description. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. It really helps me out a lot, and of course it's completely free. And you can also hit me up on Twitter and Instagram at Anime Uproar. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, see ya, Space Cowboys!